Cool. Maybe I start, and then Jeffrey, Ida, and then Angela. If that works.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, my name's Haley. I'm a member of the United Homa Nation. We started this project. Jeffrey and I came up with this project with this idea of wanting to do something to like better represent South Gulf Coast culture. And Ida graciously hopped on board to help us out with this. I don't know what else I should introduce. Currently living in Washington, D.C. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Taktol, everyone. Good evening. I'm Jeffrey Derensberg. Takapol Ishak Yukitiki, Wishawatukiti. Ya Bulbanchaketa. I am Jeffrey Derensberg. I the alligator band of the Takapol Ishak Nation. I live in Bulbancha. And glad to be working on this project with Haley. I've worked on that grant and glad to have taken Ida onto the project. I'm glad that you are allowing us to interview you because it really helps us a lot so that we know all the people we're interviewing. It's easier to have like one run where we're not trying to fiddle with stuff. So thanks.
No problem.
All right, Ida.
Hi, I'm Ida. I am production manager for this project, and I'll be in the background doing the tech stuff. I guess the only thing I can definitely make sure to say is try to enunciate, try not to mutter and speak up because the subtitles will have an easier time catching it. And also it'll help me out when I have to go over and fix the subtitles. Because as you can see from the bottom, when it's going through like native language or stuff it doesn't recognize, it's having a real tough time. That's what I'm going to have to go over and fix later on. But thank you again for doing this.
No problem. I'll go, I guess, now. Estongo, my name is Angela Comeaux. I am mixed race Muskogee, Cherokee, Choctaw, and Cajun French. I was born in Balbancha, which is New Orleans, Louisiana. And I lived there, and I lived in South Louisiana in the general area until I was 24. I became a nurse, a research nurse to be more specific. And I've been doing that for over 20 years now. I also am a member of the Balbancha Collective. I'm currently in school to become an herbal practitioner. I also have a farm that we are turning into an indigenous food forest in Florala, Alabama, which is Muskogee territory, and that's where I currently live. And I guess that's probably it for my introduction.
What do you feel like, do you feel like you grew up part of an indigenous group, or did you feel like that was something you came to later in life?
I feel like I grew up as part of an indigenous group, but it wasn't like a formed, I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know that it was not typical because I had no other lens to reference it through. My mom practiced Native spirituality, and she did so with a number of other Southeastern Native Americans they were from different tribes. We had some people that were Chitimacha, we had Choctaw people, and we actually had Homa people as well that would all come to my childhood home to practice sweat lodge ceremony. So while I did feel like I was a part of that, that was the only lens that I had to reference that through, and the stories that my mother told me as a child. So it was, our history, like Native American history, was very prevalent in our home. outside of what was taught in school, but we weren't registered tribal members. So we didn't go to like tribal meetings or gatherings or anything like that. So the spiritual aspect was the only thing that I was exposed to as a child and what I knew. And I didn't know until later that that was not the typical experience of Indigenous people.
How did you find out that that was not typical?
I got married at the age of 24 and moved away. And it was a difficult marriage that was abusive. And during that time, I could not practice my spirituality and I became disconnected from it. And once I got a divorce, I tried to reconnect to that. And in doing so, I quickly found out how difficult it was to find that again. There were not a lot of younger Native people who had been exposed in the Southeast, at least, have been exposed to ceremony or able to participate in it. And then in reaching out to try to find that again, I connected to a lot of other Natives in the area. And we all had just varying degrees of experience, you know, Native indigeneity, to be honest. Some people were enrolled tribal members, some people were, but did not have any connection with other tribal members. Some people were not. Some people were very connected to their tribal government or the formal, I guess, tribal organizations, but did not have any connection to the spirituality. So it was just like really different across the board, except we had some common threads, like a lot of us are environmentalists, or a lot of us were, you know, just proud of our Native heritage and wanted to connect with other Native people. So we did have that in common. And I think that's whenever I discovered that it was like my experience was a lot different than other people's.
I must have felt like piecing things together.
Yes, definitely. Luckily, I did have I still had connection with some of the elders that I grew up with, and they actually helped point me in the right direction to introduce me to certain people to help piece that together. So,
Are they still around?
oh yeah. Yes, Mr. Larry Richard, to name one. And he introduced me to a lot of people. The other people that I grew up with, some of them have passed on. But he was probably the most influential one here in the Southeast.
What made him stand out to you, or what made him so influential in your life?
He was like my second dad. He was amazing. There's a story that when this was like 2011 or 12, my mother almost passed away. She had developed pneumonia and didn't get proper treatment, and that led to her, it was like a cascade of medical emergencies, and she wound up developing, the pneumonia caused her to have blood clots in her lungs. She had a heart attack. It sent her into congestive heart failure. It sent her into respiratory distress syndrome. The doctor told us that to call the family in from out of state, that she was not going to make it.
Wow.
So we had, you know, people coming in from all over the United States. She wasn't even sick well enough to like life flight out. She was in a very small hospital in Morgan City. So Mr. Larry Richard and one of my mom's close friends, who is a Reiki master and a Baptist minister that married her and my stepfather, all came to the hospital at the same time. And they all were praying over. And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen, because Mr. Larry was burning sage, and he had his feathers, and he was singing, and he had his gourd. All three of them were in there praying at the same time. So it was like this craziness going on. The Reiki master was like saying Reiki, and the preacher had his Bible. It sounds like something out of a movie.
Wow, I'm imagining it.
And the next morning, the doctor came in. Y'all, I'm not kidding. Like, you can ask Miss Larry about this because it sounds so crazy. The next morning, the doctor came in and he said, he called the family together and he was like, I want to tell you guys something. He was like, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any of this stuff. I don't know what y'all did last night, but it worked. And she's well enough that we can life flight her to Ochsner in New Orleans.
Wow.
And so she was on life support there for 10 days, like total life support for 10 days in their cardiac care unit. And she wound up staying in the hospital for a month total, but she's alive today.
Wow.
And he did not leave her side until she was discharged from the hospital. He slept in the waiting room with us every night. He let my stepdad go and shower at their home. He brought us meals every day. He was there throughout my childhood like that. Like, I really thought that they almost were off the record. They might have been romantically involved, but they weren't. They were just that close. They were like brother and sister. And so, yeah, so he really made a big impact in my life as a child. And we reconnected when there was a book signing at the New Orleans library for it. It was a book about Crazy Horse's life. And it was his family.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. I couldn't make it, but I remember it.
So I went, and he and Virginia and Sierra were there. And so that was the first time I had seen him since my mom was in the hospital.
Wow.
So, and that kind of kicked everything off again.
What was that? Could you bring us through? Like, what was that meeting like, and what came out of it?
Oh, seeing him again?
Yeah.
Oh, I just hugged him, and we laughed and took pictures. And, he was like, hey, and Native elders have jokes. They got lots and lots of jokes. So he just had me in stitches the whole time. Like, the picture we took together, I look insane because my cheeks are so chunky because I'm smiling so big. Like, I'm just smiling ear to ear. So it was awesome seeing him again. Yeah, and then I think, and what another wild thing is, like, we went shortly thereafter was the Home of Powwow. And I went with my mom, and Ida was there, Miss Tammy was there, all these other people that I know now personally were there, and I didn't know you guys at the time. So we could have connected then. But
What year was that?
oh, that 18, maybe 17 or 18.
If I was there, it was 2018.
Yeah, then it was 2018 because you were there. You were definitely there.
Okay, then yeah, it had to be that.
It was they had red t-shirts, and it was the disabilities power, like it was a disabilities thing that they were doing. I don't remember the name.
The red t-shirts were 2019.
I went 2019 too, I think.
Okay, 2018 was the 3/4 length baseball tees.
Okay,
They're gray.
It was 2019.
I love that we mark the years by the fashion cut of the powwow t-shirt.
Yes. That's awesome. It was awesome to see him again though, but and it was just like we had never like had any space, any gaps. So yeah,
it feels like so much of your life as a research nurse, and so much of what you do is based on like healing or medicine or the treatment of people. Do you feel that?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. For a little bit, and it's funny because that's not what I intended to go to school for. I did not. my initial college major. I actually had a scholarship to USL at the time, now to ULL in Lafayette. And my major was environmental and sustainable resources.
Oh, wow.
So I was going to be an environmental scientist, and life said no. So I got in a bad car accident, and it totaled my car. At the time I was commuting over an hour back and forth to school.
Wow.
And I had no transportation for over 2 weeks. And my math professor had they had a policy that you couldn't miss more than 24 hours, like literal hours, or they were going to fail you. And even though I had I had the accident report, I had everything in my grade point average in the class was a B. It didn't matter to her.
Wow.
And so because of that, she failed me for the semester. And because I was on a scholarship, I got put on academic probation. But everything happens for a reason. So that's the way it was supposed to go. Yeah. I've always wanted to help. And even with the environmental science degree, to be honest, the thing that made me want to become an environmental scientist was the film Medicine Man with Sean Connery. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
Oh, it is. It's amazing. It's very dated. Like if you watched it now, you would probably be like, "Oh, this is terrible. It's so cheesy," because it's very 90s for sure. But he was a botanist in the Amazon, and they had preliminary research that they had found this chemical that was only isolated there that could cure cancer. Well, come to find out what it was this particular ant. It was in the enzymes in this particular ant's saliva after they were chewing on this particular plant that only grew in the Amazon. So it was like a race to save, this treatment to save people's lives and whatnot. But it was, action-packed Sean Connery botanist in the rainforest, and I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. So it was like helping people. So yeah.
So do you feel like you do that?
To be honest, I'm burnt out not on helping people. Because I'm a research nurse, I work for pharmaceutical industries, and basically to get a new medication available to the general public, it has to be FDA approved. So I help facilitate the research that gets those medicines approved. So like right now, that's on everybody's mind anyway, because of the COVID vaccines. Like I think a lot more people know what medical research is now because of the COVID vaccines than they did before COVID. But it's like I'm a cog in the wheel in this big giant machine. And so it's hard to feel like you're actually helping. And I like patient contact. Right now I'm not doing that. And I like to see that I'm helping people. I like to touch people. I like to talk to them face to face. I like to learn, become part of their family and build a rapport with them. And I'm not getting that right now. And I think that healthcare in general is it's more a business now than it used to be. I don't feel like I feel like it's been like that for a few years now. And I don't like how the healthcare field has shifted to that. So I think that is why I'm more delving into herbalism, because I do feel like I can help people more with that and help them have more of a connection to the earth. I don't want my plans aren't to open an herbal store or do anything commercial like that. I want to teach people how to go into their yard and see the medicine that's there and treat themselves.
I know you use these definitions all the time, but I'm wondering, could you define some stuff or what you think some things mean? What are your definitions of medicine? And what is your definition of healing?
Um,
Let's start with medicine, maybe just medicine.
okay. Medicine, there's a lot of different forms of medicine. You know, in the traditional literal sense, medicine could be, you know, prescription medicine is a pill that you take every day. But, and to me, in an indigenous sense, I don't know if it's just me, you know, in my being, there's so many other things that are not, like, to me, those pharmaceuticals are the furthest thing from medicine. Conversations like these are medicine. Relationships are medicine. Going outside and seeing a sunset is medicine. Anything that heals you in any way is medicine. Whether it be heal your emotional body or your spiritual body or your physical body, all of those things are, you know, any healing of those things is medicine.
How do you feel like that's interesting? And I'm thinking about, like, you know, if medicine is healing, then the question then becomes like, what is hurt? And then how have you seen people, how are people hurting now?
Oh, that's the existential question, isn't it? Yeah, that's a big one, because people are hurting in so many ways. Some people are hurting and they may not even realize it. Like, I think humans in general are hurting because we've strayed so far from, I don't even know how to phrase it, whether it's ancestral teachings or, because for indigenous people, our history and our teachings and our culture are all based on the earth. And there are a lot of earth-based spirituality across the globe, but I can't speak to those because I'm not from, you know, I just know about my own culture. So I think that we've lost a lot. And I think that lends to hurting, because we're not in touch with our, you know, we're not as in touch with our spiritual side, not even just our spiritual selves, our physical selves as well. We don't know, we're so far removed from our traditional food sources, for example, that all these, you know, processed foods and quick foods, and we're not hunting our foods or gathering it anymore. All of that, there's medicine in all of that, from the exercise that you get from gathering the food or from hunting the food or from cooking the food. You know, there were no preservatives, and all of the, you know, now we have all these toxic chemicals. We have glyphosate and all these different crops that's getting into our body, getting into our waterways, and not just pesticides or other, you know, there's so many other chemicals. For instance, one of the things that I think about all the time is like Teflon. That's in every person, even if you've never used a Teflon coated pan, you have that chemical in your body, in your blood, because that's how much it's leaked into everything on this earth. And so our physical bodies are hurting because of all of the damage that's been done, and like, so how far removed we are from our traditional ways, I feel.
Yeah.
I can go on a whole tangent about that, but I think that's, you know, that's one of the ways that we're hurting as people. And we're not in community with each other anymore. You know, I think that this past year has really shown us how to be in community, and those communities that have practiced mutual aid during the pandemic, and how so much of society is not in community, and so much of society is just for individualism, and how harmful that is. And I think that is hurting us as a society and as a people as well, worldwide.
Yeah.
There's lots of hurts. We only have a short time period for this. So
Yeah, I know we're getting close on time. I know there's the big question we want to ask you, but Ida and Jeff, did this spur anything? Did you guys have any questions?
I thought this was pretty good. I mean, I guess maybe one thing I would like to ask is like, what kind of stuff are you interested in learning more about right now? Or like, what are you really trying to learn about? Or something you don't think you really understand that you want to learn more about in what you do?
I always joke that if I ever became rich, I would be like a perpetual student, because I always am interested in something else. Like there's so many different rabbit holes that I could go down of things that I'm interested in, and I'm never satisfied with how much I know about things. Like I want to know more always. Why? My mom said when I was young, I would never shut up because everything it was why, but why, but why, but why? Give me an answer, but why? Herbalism specifically, but that could take years and years and years. So many things, traditional hunting practices, traditional language, spiritual practices. It's really hard. I've been in relationship with an elder for the last a little over 2 years now to try to learn Muskogee ceremony practices. And there's so much that is lost. There are songs that we sing during ceremony that we don't even know what the words mean anymore, but we still have to sing that song because that's what's been sung and what's been taught for those ceremonies. And that makes me so sad. We practice green corn ceremony, but we can't even use black drink because we don't know the ingredients or the quantity of the ingredients anymore.
Yeah, I thought about that before.
So I wish that I could relearn all that our ancestors have lost.
I guess or Ida, did you have any questions? Nope. One thing, I guess the big question, the $60 question here is, this is a project of making visible and, kind of visually displaying people. And so the question then becomes like, if you had control over your identity, how would you like to be displayed? Or how do you want people to think of Angela?
Hard question. I guess I would like to be seen as a healer and a friend, a healer and a friend. And that, I'm not an ego-driven person. I'm not competitive. I'm kind of shy. So I'm okay if people don't know who I am. But if they do know me, I would like to be, known as a friend, a gentle person. I hope I'm perceived as gentle, and I want to help people as much as possible.
Oh, I think that's, or did you
Yeah.
have anything else? I think that's all that we have. Is there anything that we left out or anything else you want to?
I thought that went
Hey.
pretty well.
Any last thoughts, Angela?
I think that those are all like super deep questions. They're good questions for sure. I think like, what are you guys giving any preface to the type of questions you're going to ask or what the interview is going to be like prior?
Yeah, in the future ones, I think we're going to take this kind of format and give it to people ahead of time, so they'll have some
Okay.
time to think about stuff and answer.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Not
Okay.
that I like I think it's beneficial too in a way to be off the cuff
Mhm.
in a way. But it might be hard for some people. Like I tend to lean more towards the philosophical side of things.
Mhm.
But not everybody may be like that, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Was there anything that you found that was difficult or uncomfortable?
I think it's because if it were other people, I might be uncomfortable, but it's y'all, you know? Like, I love y'all, so so I'm totally comfortable. But if it were a different group of people, it might have been harder for me to answer some of the questions. Yeah.
Is there anything that like I mean, we're going to definitely give you a copy of this so you can check it out and see what you think, but is there anything that you're thinking now where you're like, oh man, should have said that?
No, not particularly. I can't think of anything off the bat.
Cool.
I'm excited to see this project. It's gonna be awesome.
If we can, I'd really like to, I haven't figured out how we can really do this yet, but I'd really like to open these up for like, while we're doing them, for like members of the Bobancha Collective and other members of like the group to be able to listen in on some of this. I think I really enjoyed listening to you talk, and I think doing it, there's something about doing it live that maybe wouldn't be great for a full audience, but like other members of the community or other people who are going to be interviewed, I think it would be nice if we can get people to listen in.
I think it depends kind of on who it is too, though, you
Yeah.
know, because some people, like, I know Tanner wouldn't go for that,
Okay.
but other people might. I mean, I think the thing of like them being able to be candid, but then also like, you know, them being able to later say like, I don't want like a discussion about that in the archive,
Yeah.
I think works. But then like once it's public, it's really public. But then like we could have certain events where the person knows it's going to be public ahead of time, and then, you know, like kind of adjust the way they're thinking about it beforehand. I know that everything they're going to record is going to be public, you know, once it's in its final form. But I also want them to like, at least the people who've agreed to be recorded now, I think are recording under the assumption that it's going to be like crew who's recording that. So like the three of us or whoever else is, you know, I guess if we had someone else who needed to be on our crew, like a photographer or whatever. I don't know, I like this idea. Like Angela might be a really good person for, yes, as you say, this fireside chat version, because I think Angela would be great for that. Or at least you have been. I've seen you speak before.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And I hate public speaking is the funny thing.
Well, I mean, you know, but you're good at it though, you know, like, so I mean, a lot of people who are good at it really hate it. So I can tell you that from my experience. Not me, of course, but some people. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But I think too with having, I think the idea of like an event where it is public would be it's a good idea. Like knowing that in advance would give them, like, they would have that reference. Like, I know, you know, what not to talk about, or they would be prepared for that in advance. You know what I mean? So, and they could like change what they're going to discuss or how they're going to answer questions based off if it's public or private.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if there's people, yeah, there's like that like line, right? Where I feel like having people in the room that you don't know like reduces the intimacy of the conversation, but like also better reflects the reality of what the internet is going to be for people.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I see, yeah. I just think like way ahead of time, they got to know that that's what the things are going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah.
But I think it's something we'll definitely, and I like your idea of doing like the festival thing where we do like a festival at some point of people being interviewed live.